Pekný podvečer, dámy a páni, vážení priatelia. Prosím,
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Please sit down, take your seats. As was said, my name is Roman Joch. I live in Prague right now, and I'm very honored to host a political panel. We have one lady, two gentlemen. They are all members of parliament. And I'll first introduce Lady Miriam Lexmann, is the member of parliament who is active in a group of European popular European group. One of the state people is the German Chancellor. Another guest is European Parliament member Nicolas Bay, originally from France. He's a member of the parliamentary group of European Conservatives and Reformists. Again, a European states people. There's George Meloni, your Italian Prime Minister. And then there is Antonio Tange Coaches from Portuguese party Čeka, and also a member of party group Patriots from the European Parliament. And I'll mention one of the European prime ministers, and that's Viktor Orbán, Hungarian MP. For the beginning, I'd like to ask the panelists to have their initial openings in which they'll tell us what they find important in this period of time and also what they deem important and put forward, and also maybe a negative thing that they are trying to block. So first of all, Miriam Lexmann, thank you very much. When I was a candidate for European Parliament, my motto was "Let's return the values to Europe," by which I meant the values that the Christian Democrats, faithful people, have put into the foundations of the European Union, and mainly is the principle of subsidiarity, and the objectives should be the protection of peace, of human rights, and human dignity, and also contribute to the fact so the European Union would be prosperous, along with Europe as such. That was the vision of the founding fathers. They wanted to help the economic growth and block the terror on per people. So basically protect human dignity and human rights. In the first mandate, I told myself I'm not sure which direction the European Union is going, but at the time it's starting to be an ever bigger challenge. And a year or something ago, when all this parliamentary period has started, it seemed that maybe many things and many mistakes that have been made could be fixed, and to put common sense back into politics and kind of reverse all the ideological pressures when it comes to cultural, ethical topics, green topics, and other ideologies. So for now, it seems that it's more difficult than what we thought at the beginning. There belongs the abolishment of the engines. I'm in the team of the party, and now I see it won't be possible. Then the ATS2, ATS in general. In spite of the fact that we are one step ahead, two steps back. For example, we are working on very slowly to reverse, for example, the abolishment of the engines. But at the same time, there is very silently a legislative being prepared that want to force companies who are buying cars to buy just electro cars. So there will be a liquidation of all one big field of industry for all logistics logistics companies, basically. Maybe I'm going into a lot of details, but those are things that I think could be reversed, but we need to coordinate countries who have governments who want to contribute for it to be reversed, because from the European Parliament alone it cannot be reversed for sure. Another thing is cultural ethical questions. We have had a discussion quite recently about we have discussions on this cultural ethical questions. It always comes from the left side, and progressives from the European Parliament, who there was a very heated discussion about surrogacy, who have been declined by the parliament some time ago, thanks to Miroslav Mikolášik, who sits here, who used to be a parliament of the European member of the European Parliament, and it's been expressed very clearly that it's in and that it doesn't have anything to do with human rights. And now we are 7-8 years later, and now there is prevailing support for this surrogacy. So maybe one more thing that I deem important, very important, and we don't speak enough about it. It's always said that conservatives are kind of coming with the cultural, ethical topics. They always have to open it, but the European level, these questions are always opened by the progressives and left side. We are basically defending and telling them that these are the competencies of the member states. And I think this is the biggest challenge of the European Union, to kind of go back to the principle of subsidiarity. Because at the European level, we spend 99% of the time things that are not actually in our competencies, and we don't deal with things that are important, especially in this very difficult period of time and situation geopolitically and from other perspectives as well. Thank you very much, Mrs. Lexmann. And now please, Member of Parliament Nicola Bay.
I'm so happy to be here. And it's not the first time that I'm on this type of event. I'm so happy to be here. We have to defend the values which are the most important.
L'essentiel, c'est-à-dire les valeurs qui ont fondé la civilisation européenne et chrétienne, parce que ces valeurs, aujourd'hui, elles sont affaiblies, elles sont menacées. Et la grandeur de l'Europe, le
These values constructed the Europe.
Possible que si nous parvenons à ressourcer l'Europe dans les valeurs qui l'ont construite. Et puis, une deuxième signification qui ne me semble pas moins importante, c'est que je crois qu'on est confronté à un moment aujourd'hui où il y a
with different history,
dans nos pays
with conflict,
de la nécessité d'agir en commun, parce que nous sommes confrontés par-delà nos histoires nationales différentes,
with the last
même
century.
les guerres, les conflits qui ont marqué l'histoire.
This is challenge which is we are facing together.
De relever un certain nombre de défis ensemble, et j'ajouterais pour
there's different groups on the right side, by political side.
Des différents groupes de droite au Parlement européen montrent aussi cette volonté de.
The most important are our values, and this challenge is really huge, and it's in our identity. And it's about Christian values as well. We are attacked by this threat, which might
le poids de l'immigration provenant de pays majoritairement musulmans met en péril notre identité, mais le wokisme, la vaste entreprise de démolition, de déconstruction de nos valeurs, initiée, soutenue par de puissants lobbies progressistes.
This essential thing, these are precisely our values. So today, a major challenge is we must face. There is challenges very broad and very vast. This European and Christian civilization identity is attacked, threatened in quite diverse ways. The weight of immigration from predominantly Muslim countries and it's danger for
Écoutez, on
our
peut dire
identity.
que
The
la
West,
géographie fait l'histoire. Et c'est vrai que les fleuves, les mers, les océans, les montagnes,
we
souvent, eh
have
bien,
to
ont
protect
déterminé les grands
our
mouvements de population, les guerres et les conquêtes, pour obtenir une plaine plus fertile, pour obtenir la protection d'un massif montagneux, pour obtenir l'accès à l'eau. Les hommes et les femmes se sont souvent battus. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes sans doute à un
it's
moment où
about the construction
nous,
of
peu
our
de pays dans le
values,
monde, il y en a malheureusement
initiated
beaucoup
and
trop,
supported by
mais peu de pays dans le
powerful
monde
progressive
connaissent des guerres
lobbies,
effroyables
also
qui font énormément de morts. Moi,
constitutes
je
a
pense
threat
très
to our
singulièrement à la
identity
guerre qui
because
a
our
lieu
identity is composed of
à la
different
fin de l'Europe
layers. It is our
aujourd'hui en Ukraine.
civilization identity,
Bien
it
sûr,
is our national
il
identities, it is
existe
also
toujours des
our
maladies ou des
identity.
catastrophes naturelles,
Provincial identity,
mais
which
moins
all
qu'avant.
our
La
traditions,
technique, la
with
science
our
nous
all
permet de
traditions,
mieux les
and it
maîtriser, de
is
mieux les
also, of
anticiper.
course,
Et
the
donc,
family, which is the
les
first
guerres,
layer,
les
the
catastrophes
make up
naturelles,
an
les
individual
épidémies
identity
ne
as
sont
basic
plus
unit of
les
society. It
puissants
is
et
often said
dramatiques
that
régulateurs
geography makes
démographiques
history, and
que
it's
nous
true
avons connus
that
dans l'histoire.
rivers,
Et
seas,
donc
oceans,
aujourd'hui,
mountains
eh bien, c'est
often
sans doute la
will help
démographie
determine
qui
the
fait
great
l'histoire.
movements of
Parce que
population
les
wars,
grandes
and
dynamiques démographiques,
they
positives
obtained
ou
a
négatives,
more
eh
fertile
bien,
plan to
préfigurent
obtain the
sans doute des
protection of the
basculements
mountain
historiques.
range as
Je
well.
prendrai quelques chiffres très rapidement. La France, 68 millions d'habitants. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes tombés à 1,6 enfants par femme.
At the
L'Europe,
age of Europe
450
today
millions
in
d'habitants,
Ukraine,
nous
of
sommes
course,
tombés à
there are
1,38
still
enfants par femme.
diseases.
Le continent africain, 1 milliard d'individus. Et à échéance de 2050, c'est-à-dire dans 25 ans, 2 milliards 500 millions d'individus. Et je ne dis pas ça pour
There's still
simplement pour
natural
poser la question
disasters, but fewer than
migratoire et la
before because of
question
technology
des
and science
flux
allow
du
us
sud vers
to
le
better
nord,
control them and to
mais dont on sait
better
tous que
anticipate them.
les raisons
And
sont de
therefore, wars,
nombreuses.
natural
Situation
disasters,
économique et
epidemics
sociale,
are no longer the powerful
situation
and
climatique,
dramatic
les guerres, etc.
that we have known
Mais
through
c'est
the
pour
history.
dire
And
que
so today,
un,
well, it is
un pays et une
undoubtedly demography that
civilisation et un
makes history
continent,
because
l'espèce
the
comme
major
l'Europe
demographic
qui
dynamics,
a une
positive or negative,
démographie
will
négative,
undoubtedly
eh bien, n'a pas d'avenir. Et
major
l'histoire nous
historical
enseigne que les
shifts.
civilisations sont
And I
mortelles.
will give you a
Il y a
few
des
figures very
civilisations
quickly.
qui
France
ont
has
existé, qui ont
68
grandi, qui ont
million
rayonné, qui
inhabitants.
ont disparu. Et il y en a, on pense tous aux civilisations d'Amérique du Sud, par exemple, mais il y en a beaucoup d'autres. Et, et donc aujourd'hui, notre civilisation européenne, dont tout le monde s'accorde à dire qu'elle a été celle qui a été la plus
And
à
simply
même
to
de
raise
rayonner
the
à travers le
issue
monde,
of
sans doute parce qu'elle a été
migration
imprégné du
and the
christianisme qui lui a
issue
donné
of laws
une
from the
dimension
south and north, which we all
universaliste.
know that
Eh
the
bien aujourd'hui,
reasons are
cette
numbers,
civilisation européenne,
economic
sans
and
doute
social
face à cette
situation,
dynamique
climatic consideration.
démographique
But
négative,
this is
elle est
to say
menacée.
that a
Et
country
donc,
and civilization
la
and
question qui se
citizens, in
pose
the
aux
case
responsables politiques que nous sommes, mais plus
concern
généralement à la
Europe,
société, eh
as
bien,
negative
c'est il faut
demographic growth.
savoir comment
There
enrayer
are
cette,
civilizations that have
cette
existed, that
situation
have
démographique,
grown,
comment
that have
retrouver finalement les
flourished, and
conditions d'une
that have
démographie positive
disappeared.
qui serait
There are
le
some we all think
premier
of the
élément
South
clé
American civilization,
montrant
for
une volonté de
example, but there
survie
are many
de la
others.
civilisation
And
européenne. Et
so
parmi
today, our
lesquels ça peut
European
sembler
civilization,
évident,
which
mais
everyone agrees,
l'Europe
has been the one
n'est
that has
finalement
been the
qu'un
most
petit
able to spread through
cap
the world,
au bout du
undoubtedly
grand
because
continent
I was
asiatique.
imbued with
Mais
Christianity.
l'Europe est assez densément peuplée. Ça veut dire aussi que d'autres ensembles peuvent beaucoup plus facilement se développer démographiquement avec une densité de population qui est actuellement plus faible que celle de l'Europe. Mais pourtant, si l'Europe veut garder sa place, son rôle, son rang sur la scène mondiale,
To stop
comme
this
civilisation,
demographic
eh bien,
situation,
nous
how to
devons
finally regain
retrouver
the
une dynamique démographique. Alors aujourd'hui,
conditions
on voit bien
of a
qu'il y a
positive demography, which
plusieurs
would be the
facteurs
first
qui
tangible
aboutissent
element
à cet
showing of
effondrement
will
démographique. Et
to
d'ailleurs, c'est
survive.
bien
Of
de
European
considérer que
civilization,
l'Europe,
I
c'est
would
un
like to
petit pays.
remind you,
Nous sommes
it
ici
may
aujourd'hui
seem
présents en
obvious,
Europe
but
avec
Europe is only
un pays,
one.
mais il y en a beaucoup
It is
d'autres.
ultimately
Et c'est très
only
bien.
a
C'est très
small
bien.
one,
Et
a
même,
cape of
ça a été
at the
théorisé,
end of
malheureusement,
great
depuis
Asian
30 ans dans les
continent.
institutions européennes,
That
c'est de
Europe
dire
is
qu'il faudrait
quite
finalement avoir
decently
plus
populated.
d'immigration.
This also
Alors, cette
means that
immigration aussi
other
qu'elle génère
groups
des
can
troubles
much more
et
easily
des
develop
menaces nouvelles,
demographically with the
en plus
population
d'immigration pour
density
compenser le
that is
déficit
currently
démographique.
lower
Nous
than
pensons qu'il faut
of
retrouver
Europe. But
le
yet,
chemin de
if
la
Europe
démographie. Et
wants to
pour ça,
keep
eh
its
bien,
place,
d'abord,
its
il y a des
role,
efforts économiques,
its
politiques,
rank of
sociaux,
the
et
role
il faut du
stage as
gouvernement. Il y en a qui le font. Je pense au
civilization.
gouvernement hongrois, je pense au gouvernement de Giorgia Meloni en Italie. Des plus puissantes incitations sociales, des dispositions fiscales pour rapprocher
But
le
because of
désir
economy,
d'enfant du nombre d'enfants. On
people
sait qu'il y a
cannot
beaucoup
have
de
many
couples qui
children.
voudraient avoir, par
They
exemple,
want
3 enfants
even
et
have
qui
a children,
renoncent à
but
en
they
avoir un
cannot
troisième
because of
pour des raisons de moyens
the,
économiques.
the
Si l'État
money
est présent,
they need.
si la puissance publique leur offre les
We have to
conditions
fight
favorables de logement,
the big
d'aide sociale,
ideologists, progressive
d'allocation, eh
ones.
bien, souvent, ils franchiront le pas en quelque sorte d'un enfant supplémentaire. Il faut aussi combattre les grandes idéologies actuelles, progressistes, qui consistent non seulement à dissuader la démographie, à
We are
dissuader
responsible. We have to say to people, if they want children, they are responsible
aux hommes, si vous voulez avoir des enfants,
for them.
vous êtes irresponsables parce que c'est mauvais pour la planète et vous allez émettre des gaz à effet de serre. Et on dit aux femmes, eh bien,
It's really
non
hard
seulement vous
for
êtes
couples and
irresponsables, mais en
people
plus,
to have a
c'est un
children
asservissement qui vous réduit
with such
à
a
votre rôle uniquement maternel.
such
Alors que
hard
c'est sans doute la plus belle
economy.
mission, la plus magnifique mission que l'on puisse avoir. Et on voit qu'il y a l'idéologie écologiste et il y a l'idéologie féministe qui a consisté là aussi
There
à
is still a maternal role. While it is undoubtedly the most beautiful mission, the most magnificent mission one can have, and we see that there is ideology behind. Ecologists are there is the feminist ideology as well, which also constitute.
Et si on ne transmet pas, si on n'a pas d'enfants, eh bien on n'a pas non plus besoin d'avoir un avenir. Du coup, le résultat, eh bien, c'est que l'horizon ultime de chacun, c'est son propre individu. C'est-à-dire, c'est l'individualisme, l'égoïsme organisé, à la fois dans le temps, pas d'ancêtres, pas de descendants,
Environmentalists and there is feminist ideology, which are also trying to weaken motherhood, to criticize it, to challenge it in a broader approach, which is an approach individualistic, that is to say man is sufficient unto himself. This is the great ideology of the left. We have no history.
D'un projet de société et qui nous empêche aujourd'hui de nous projeter dans l'avenir.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going to ask Member of Parliament Antoniu Kroja.
They don't to give the voice to the patriots. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. A few thoughts. First, Europe's strength has never been the numbers alone. It has been in the quality of the people. I remind you, for instance, as an example, that Portugal, in the year of the discoveries, navigations, we were 3 million, and we built one of the biggest empires in the modern age. So, quality, studying, courage, resilience is what it takes. Migration is not a substitute for demography, not at all. Because if the cultures are different, if the cultures are opposite in certain cases, it is obvious that one only will subside. And that's a very complicated story to go, because then we will have a conflict. And we don't want to have a conflict in the middle of Europe. But it's what's going to happen if we go on like this. I'd like to say a few things. What are the things we want to see in European Parliament? We want to see Ursula von der Leyen gone. We want to see the so-called right unified, meaning ESN, Patriots, ECR, and EPP, which is not the case. Only in the small and certain cases it's true. We want this on the positive side. On the negative side, we want to get down the Green Deal. We want to get down illegal immigration, and we want to get down corruption, which is an illness of the European institutions. We got a victory vis-à-vis the Green Deal. We suspended parts of it. We got a victory in the chat control, which now even the Danish, they wanted to solve this problem during the Danish presidency. We managed at the council level, and the parliament was everybody ready to vote against. So it will come perhaps on a more soft version, but it was our victory. And we want to have real ecology, not the Green Deal. And what is an ecology that destroys agriculture with solar panels? Are we going to eat solar panels in the future? or the windmills in the ocean. We are spoiling our oceans. We are spoiling our coasts. Is this ecology? Ecology, you cannot fish. We cannot have the animals. We cannot plant. I never heard from the left the word planting trees. Cutting trees, yes, a lot. But planting trees, I never heard. But since I was very small, I knew that the trees are able to transform CO2 into oxygen. It's called the chlorophyll. But I don't hear the ecologists talk about that. But for me, should be the first step. The second step, it's going to be intelligent. And now I'm going to tell you something that probably will shock you. The demographic diminution in Europe, for me, it's not a crisis. You know why? Nobody spoke about this yet. Because the developing of artificial intelligence, the jobs are going to diminish. Less people are going to be employed because artificial intelligence is going to occupy posts that work for people. So therefore, it's not having less people that's going to create a problem. The problem is to educate the people that are there. Therefore, we don't need immigration. Therefore, we don't need a bigger population. What we need is to develop the artificial intelligence in our favor, because then we don't need to have so many people, and the artificial intelligence is going to give us the edge. It's the edge we have to do. We have to evolve our society. We have to develop our society into a modern age. And that's the secret. It's not using old methods that we are going to survive. It's not using old methods that we are going to be resilient and to evolve to a better society. We have to innovate. We have to be more modern. We have to go forward. And we have mainly not to be afraid to do it. We must have the courage to do it. Because if you're afraid, you already lost the war. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member of the Parliament. I'm very glad that all the panelists have touched the topic of this panel, how to continue further and how not to continue further when attempting to solve the demographic crisis of Europe. We Europeans cannot console ourselves that some societies might be worse off, Korea, Japan, than we are. But surrogacy that is against human rights is not a solution of the demographic crisis. And also mass immigration from foreign civilizations that could bring us problems. It's also not a solution to the demographic crisis. What would you solve at European level? Primarily, it's a question of lifestyle of individual families than national states. And is there something that could help at European level? Please, Mrs. Lexmann. Thank you very much. That's a very complex question at the European level, because many parts of the European family policy belongs to the member states, and we conservatives don't want that when solving the demographic crisis, the competencies be brought to European level. That's maybe the most important point. On the other hand, European Union could bring some solutions, because I also agree with what my colleagues have said, to kind of bring people from countries that are culturally, religiously very far is not a solution. And we see what is happening in Western Europe. So that's the reason we need to say this. A big question might be in Slovakia, we don't speak about it enough, that our government is signing treaties with Uzbekistan and wants to bring in 200,000 people from Uzbekistan, which is definitely not a solution. On the other hand, I think that the solution is, for example, a fast solution. For example, we have plenty of Ukrainians, we have doctors from Ukraine who live here and cannot find work. We cannot give them work such as a nurse because they don't have needed documents. I think other countries would be definitely more flexible and more skilled in doing this. Not to kind of let doctors just wipe floors in hotels or something. So kind of include them more properly into the system, into the society, language-wise, culture-wise, religion-wise. They're close to us in all these aspects. But what could the Union do? One thing, in my opinion, that could help is to focus more on the objective, that is the main objective of the cohesive politics, and that is the development of region. We lack in supporting regions, the people not to leave the regions. We have the shift from the capital, from regions to capitals, and then capitals to abroad. And we should stop this, and we could stop it by offering infrastructure and some kind of background support in the regions. And we have finances for that, but I say it from Slovak perspective. European Union does what it's supposed to, even though the Commission could maybe set it up more strategically. But the task for us to use it well to what it's supposed to serve. And unfortunately, in Slovakia, we neglect this. And we always have problem kind of spend the funds and not to invest strategically in regions. And the second question that is being opened at the European level, and I'm kind of worried about it, is the apartments question. Because now in the plan of renewal and the financial framework for a couple of years, we want to invest a lot of money into rental apartments. On one hand, yes, possibly, it could be an answer to a huge challenge that young families have. And it points to decline of number of families, number of children the families have, because they cannot afford they cannot afford housing that could answer the size of the family. But that's a question and that's a problem. But again, I'm worried that we are approaching it from the wrong end, because the Union is setting up various objectives, grant schemes, and I don't know what, that will be complicated, kind of hard to get in. And in Slovakia, it will end up that this money will get to oligarchs who will build some buildings for themselves, and people won't have housing they need, and money from taxes from the Western Europe will be spent on this. So yes, apartment question is something, it's a solution that we should consider, but on the other hand, I probably wouldn't leave it to European Union. Thank you very much, Mrs. Lexmann, and please, Nicola Bay, please, if you could comment on this.
Si on réfléchit à la manière de relancer, redynamiser la natalité européenne, moi je suis largement d'accord avec ce qui a été dit.
I agree with already what has been said.
On peut d'ailleurs multiplier les mesures techniques.
There is so many things what we should do in country.
D'inciter les jeunes à fonder un foyer et accueillir la vie.
Technical, critical, which will therefore allow courage to families with children in the city and young people. We can multiply the measures.
Dans la partie ouest de l'Europe, les politiques qui ont été menées par des
can multiply everything what is necessary to have a family life in the cities. We can wish to multiply the measures, technique, criticism, and will therefore allow families to have children in cities.
Mais
We
je
are
pense en même temps qu'il y aurait un peu
due
un
to countries
écueil
still
à réduire la question de la
the western
natalité
part of Europe,
à simplement des mesures
the life of
techniques qui
western
n'auraient
part
pas
of
été
Europe.
prises
The
et qu'il
policies
conviendrait de
are
prendre. Parce
monetized,
qu'en réalité, ce qui va être déterminant, c'est la
accommodations
foi dans
can
l'avenir, la confiance
multiply.
et la conscience de ce que l'on est, c'est-à-dire retrouver la fierté civilisationnelle pour avoir envie de contribuer chacun à sa place, à sa dimension, en fonction de ses possibilités, à cette œuvre
What is true is that the nation to the country is still true in the western part of Europe.
y
The
compris
politicians
en
were
ayant des enfants
monetized.
et en accueillant la vie. Parce que si on
Housing
réduit
is
à des
obstacle, of
aspects
course,
techniques, eh
but
bien,
I think a little bit
il
of
sera facile
unique one
avec
question of the birth
l'idéologie de
rate
dire aux gens, mais plutôt que
is
d'accueillir des
convention to
enfants, eh bien,
take because we have
jouissez de
realities
la
that
vie,
are
profitez des avantages
determinate,
matériels.
faith
S'il faut
in the
choisir
future, confidence,
entre
and
avoir le dernier
pride
iPhone,
in
la dernière
civilization
voiture et un
to
emploi
want to contribute
supplémentaire, eh bien,
possibility in this national
tout le
work,
discours progressiste et
continental,
consumériste
including
consiste à
children
dire bah,
as well.
profitez de la vie, c'est vous-même, c'est votre bonheur personnel, matériel qui compte, et à ce moment-là, eh bien, faites le
We
choix
have
du
to make
consumérisme. Donc, je
sacrifices
pense que le plus
as
important,
well.
c'est de retrouver l'âme européenne, de retrouver
It is convenient
la volonté, la conscience de faire perdurer notre civilisation.
to
Parce que
want to
c'est à ce
contribute
moment-là que, eh
is
bien,
necessary.
chacun,
In this national
consentira
work,
des sacrifices,
continental,
parce que
including
quand on
children,
est père ou
and
mère
we
de
scale
famille,
life
ceux qui le sont le
technically
savent, ce sont des
and well,
sacrifices à
enjoy
la
this
fois sans
life,
doute le
take
plus grand des
advantages
bonheurs,
of the
le
material
plus grand des
advantages.
épanouissements, bien supérieur à toutes les joies matérielles, mais ce sont évidemment des sacrifices, c'est-à-dire
The
qu'on
most
s'inscrit dans
important
une
thing
logique qui
is
consiste
to
à être le
wonder
maillon d'une
the
chaîne.
awareness.
Je suis un descendant, j'ai hérité de quelque chose, parfois un héritage matériel, mais aussi un héritage immatériel, un héritage moral, spirituel, et c'est cet héritage qu'il m'appartient de transmettre. Mon horizon ultime, c'est pas moi-même. Je ne suis pas là simplement pour profiter de la vie. Je suis là pour préserver un héritage. Si j'en ai la possibilité, les capacités et les moyens,
The great fulfillment to
et le transmettre
superior
à des
to
générations à
all
venir.
material
Il faut bien
joys.
avoir des enfants pour ça.
Logical, he consists of
Finalement, c'est
being
une
the man of
philosophie de vie qu'il faut recréer, et ça passe aussi par une dimension spirituelle. Si la société n'est baignée que dans des valeurs consuméristes et matérialistes,
here is a society only valuing in decline, not forced. Well, let's put ourselves
on
in
retrouve le
perspective.
sons de la transcendance
You
et
want
donc de la
to preserve
transmission.
our
À ce
heritage.
moment-là, eh bien, on se replace dans une perspective de transmission et donc de descendance.
Ďakujem, pán europoslanec. A teraz
Thank you very
poprosím
much.
pána
And now,
europoslanca
please,
Antonio
Antonio
Kochea.
Thatcher.
What would you suggest on the European
Čo by ste
level
navrhli na
to
európskej
improve
úrovni?
demographic situation in Europe? Yes. Is there any policy on the European Union level which could improve demographic situation in Europe?
No. No, and it's not responsibility of the European Union, it's responsibility of the member states.
Yes.
Like housing. Talking about housing, housing must be the member states, not the European Union, to take care of that subject, because every country has its own specific specifications. We, for instance, the biggest landlord in Portugal is a state. And there are empty houses all over the place. So if you start using those houses to house people, young people, needed people, that's a first step. Second, we have another problem, is this new immigration from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and so on. They rent the responsibles, they rent apartments of 2 rooms where 30 people are living, 25 people are living. So the affordable housing is being occupied by these illegal immigrants because of this wave of migrants, which is like 3.5 years old, 3.5 years old. We think that we have now 1.8 million illegal immigrants in Portugal in a population of 10 million. It's a weight we cannot support, and that's a big problem. So, first thing, 2/3 of these people don't work, 2/3. So we, a country like Portugal, cannot survive with such a weight. That's one point. Second point, it's what the European citizens think about the Union. We, Chega, the Portuguese party, maybe you are aware of our party, we are now the second biggest party in Portugal in 6 years. Just to tell you something, in 6 years, we came from 1 member of parliament to 12 members of parliament, to 50 members of parliament, to 60 members of parliament this year. So this is unheard of in Portugal, and I think in most of the Europe. So therefore, what we did, the Commission created in the Parliament a commission called Democratic Shield, European Union Democratic Shield, of which I am the coordinator for the Patriots. It was clearly a commission created, a committee created to create censorship, pure and hard censorship. So the Commission prepared a survey relating what was the opinion of the citizens, European citizens, vis-à-vis the institutions of the European Union, and it was very biased. So what we did in Chega and then in the Patriots, we did our own survey that included all 27 countries of the European Union. They got 4,000 answers, we got 15,000. So that's the difference. And the answers, my friends, I can tell you, are not very, very nice for the European institutions. So why am I telling you this? Because either in the future we get the people, the European people of all our countries, closer to the European institutions, or we will have a major crisis. Because people will go, will believe less and less in the European institutions, more and more scandals will appear in the next future, and I can guarantee you that this is not good news. So this is important, have an eye, because they will try to get more censorship, they will try to fund more NGOs, they will try to fund more newspapers, 21 billion euros for all this work, to support independent media. And I ask you, which media can be independent if they receive 10 or 15 million of euros? Is it independent of what? Of me? Sure, but not from the European Commission. So they will say exactly what the European Commission wants them to say, period. So this is going to be what's going to happen in the future, and we have to be very vigilant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member of the European Parliament. Now it's time for your questions. Please introduce yourself briefly, say who you're addressing your question to, either to a particular Member of Parliament or to all of them, and let us take 3 questions. My first question is to Mrs. Lexmann. Ever since there were votes to the European Parliament's European Democrats and Christians have majority worked with the Green, with and other partners. Isn't it time to work with European conservatives, reformists and patriots now? Okay, maybe I'm not the right person to address this, but I was the one who in the European People fraction that I've been the member of to work with ECR much more, and that's what I also do in many platforms. I try to coordinate my own steps with the members of parliaments of ECR. And the second thing that I've tried to propose that I was skeptical about this is that to the People's Party is that ever since I became a member of parliament, I was given these voting list with the EPP. They send it out to every member as they propose the individual reporters propose for the given proposals to vote, and often it happens that things that we have in our goals we voted against because it was proposed by those on the right from us, the ECR, that was considered in the previous term for we would say cordon sanitaire, that you cannot work with them in order to keep and remain unmarked, let's say. Now it's a different story now, but they were part of those parties. So whenever there was a proposal from this right side, it was never voted for, and that's what I objected about. That's not the way to go forward. Until that came a moment where in Germany, right before the previous election, CDU voted with the German right in terms of migrants and how to deal with it. And that's when our approach, the approach of the leaders of EPP started to change, and now there is an agreement in place that we vote for what we believe in, and regardless of who proposes that bill or that thing. Not all of my colleagues are able to respect that because they are afraid of what people at home will say, that for them that they have voted with somebody with the extremists. But gradually, European People's Party is coming to the fact that that's what we need to do, that we need to stand for what we stand for, actually, what we believe in, and that we cannot really maneuver before every other voting, so we do not vote in the same way as the others, because that's like, it's not how what politics is about. And in Germany, they started, and now my colleagues have found out that we're losing our voters, because how can we convince them that we are pro-business, pro-economic, right side party? How do we want to convince our voters that these are our goals if we do not vote for them? And justification that because this or that colleague voted for will not be accepted by them. And this can also be put to the discussion in Slovakia about the amendment to the constitution. But I do not want to go into details. I think that EPP, unfortunately, is going through a transformation, and I'm thinking about whether the speed is fast enough that we may prevent the economic catastrophe. That there are many things that I see that we should deal with, but we do not deal with them because EPP is slow to react. That's a good direction, but a slow speed. So there's another question from this lady.
Yes, Ludovine de la Rochère from France. I'm president of La Manif pour tous, which is now Le Syndicat de la Famille, Family Union. And my question is to Antonio Tonga Correa. You said just a few minutes ago that European Union cannot do anything for policy families and for demography. Yes, actually, in the TFUO, it is from the sovereignty of of all the member states. But why do we have children? Of course, not for subventions. I should even say not for political matters, but because very deeply, and especially when we are very young, adolescents, we are involved in the sensibility about pregnancy and fatherhood and motherhood. For example, when I was a young girl, my mother told me, look at this wife, she's pregnant, it's absolutely extraordinary. And it was great news. And I mean that when European Union is always in the struggle against gender stereotypes and in the struggle for equality, which means struggles between man and woman, of course, it will hide, it will destroy this taste for motherhood or fatherhood. So I think that in this point, European Union has a great role to play because it's a philosophical and political issues, actually. It's not the material, of course it is also, but after. So, do you agree with that? And do you think that European Union could change this very materialist and individualist and see the matter of demography in another point of view, in another way, rather pragmatic and rather, I should say, in a transmissional way. Sorry for my bad English. Thank you very much by advance.
Thank you very much, Ma'am, for your answer. It's quite obvious that we are totally in favor of what you said. There are two separate ways of doing what you're saying. First one is to stop the support for all the abortion movements, for all the non-family movements, for all the woke movements that the European Commission is paying for. I repeat, that the European Commission is paying for. Yes, if they pay for this, obviously it reflects in the education because the wokeism is going to be transferred into the education programs, and we just finished in Portugal with education programs that they have 3-year-old kids with sexual education in schools, in public schools. Happily, this new government stopped that nonsense. That's one thing that's very important. It's to stop all this madness and to stop all these anti-social movements. The second stop is, as my colleague was saying, and very well, the first school is home. So the school is to educate, home is to give a sense of society and family. And that's very important. So we should support the families, not only from the monetary point of view, but also from the psychological point of view. Meaning, you are right, not like many movements nowadays, they say, a classic family is not man and wife and children. And a normal family can be anybody living under the same ceiling. I mean, this is complicated. So we have to go and say, no, family is someone or some group that cooperates with the society, builds the society, is the base of society. Now, if technically there are ways to do it, yes. France tried it before, Hungary tried it, is still trying now, the number of children had gone up. Even Sweden some years ago tried that, and it worked okay until they had this woke ideology. So yes, two hands. One, cut the evil, and second, promote the good. Thank you.
Ďakujeme a pán europoslanec Nikola Bay
Thank you very much.
sa k tomuto vyjadrí.
Also, the Member of Parliament, Nicola Bay, will have its say.
What is important is to subject moral.
Et on a convenu
What is
aussi qu'il y avait
important
une
as well?
nécessité de réarmement moral et que c'est peut-être là l'essentiel. Ce ne sont pas
There's
simplement des mesures techniques.
equality,
Aujourd'hui,
ideology
c'est
of
l'idéologie
equality,
égalitariste, celle de l'indifférenciation qui aboutit
that
à
women and
faire en
men
sorte
are
que les femmes
equal.
deviennent des hommes comme les autres.
It's politic,
Et essayer au nom de
is
l'égalitarisme,
modern,
eh bien,
but values are the more
de remettre en cause
important,
nos
which we
grandes
have
valeurs.
to
Pour
protect.
permettre aux femmes d'accéder à un certain
At
nombre
the
de
same
postes
time,
professionnels à responsabilité, eh
They're,
bien, dans le même
they
temps, on
are
explique
said
qu'il faut
they
faire moins
have
d'enfants, il faut
to
consacrer
have
moins de temps à la
less
maternité,
children.
oubliant finalement une chose évidente, c'est que c'est l'aspiration légitime profonde d'une
We have
majorité de
to
femmes, eh bien, de pouvoir vivre leur maternité dans les meilleures conditions possibles, et c'est à la puissance publique
Maternity,
d'organiser
we
ça.
have to
Et dans les
improve
institutions européennes, nous sommes,
the
je
maternity
pense tous,
structure as we have,
confrontés
so
à un
women
phénomène qui est
have better
extrêmement choquant et très révélateur de l'idéologie qui imprègne la Commission européenne, c'est que à
conditions.
chaque fois qu'on demande ou qu'on incite ou qu'on propose
We have to
des
help
mesures
women
pro-famille, des mesures
well.
qui aideraient les femmes à concilier plus facilement
The
la vie
measures
familiale et la vie professionnelle. Des mesures qui inciteraient à l'accueil de la vie, à cette fameuse culture de la vie dont parlait
it
Jean-Paul
awaits the
II.
great
À
techniques that
des
its
mesures
equality ideologies,
pratiques,
it
concrètes qui permettraient
alleges
d'aider
a
les familles. On nous
difference
répond toujours, on n'est
that
pas en
ends up
compétence de
like
l'Union
the
européenne. C'est
others
vrai que le traité de Lisbonne définit les
professionals
compétences de
with
l'Union européenne,
responsibilities.
ce qui relève de l'Union et ce qui relève des États membres. Mais dans le même temps, on constate deux choses. Donc l'Union européenne nous dit, la Commission européenne nous dit, je ne peux pas intervenir sur ces politiques-là, mais dans le même temps,
It
puisque ce sont
depends
des
on the
compétences
main
nationales,
techniques.
lorsqu'un certain nombre de pays prennent des mesures
European
audacieuses pour
Commissions,
soutenir les familles
that every
fiscalement,
time we
socialement,
ask
la
for
Commission
posts,
européenne leur tombe
phone,
dessus
customs, professional
en leur
life,
trouvant toutes sortes de critiques. Je pense du
competence.
gouvernement hongrois qui a été attaqué sur sa loi de protection des enfants parce qu'il refusait la propagande
At the same
LGBT dans les
time,
écoles.
European
Et on voit
Union
aussi dans le même temps
have
que l'Union
no
européenne, les
problem
institutions
in
européennes n'ont
this
aucun problème à se
problem.
saisir de ces sujets-là lorsqu'il s'agit d'aller encore plus loin dans le progressisme.
It's program which
C'est-à-dire
costs so
des
so
programmes qui
much.
coûtent des milliards d'euros
LGBT
pour soutenir
is politic
les
which
mouvements
is promote the
LGBT au
most.
nom d'une prétendue diversité, ou même, on l'a vu dans un vote juste à la fin du précédent mandat, moi j'étais déjà député européen, mais ce n'était pas le cas de tous ici, avec le vote sur l'inscription de l'IVG dans la Charte des droits fondamentaux, qui est en quelque sorte l'équivalent de la Constitution à
Until the
l'échelle
end of the
européenne.
previous mandate,
Et
I
là,
was
on a vu
already
d'ailleurs à cette
a
occasion
member
que dans
of
nos
the
groupes
European
respectifs,
Parliament.
eh bien, il y avait un vrai combat à mener parce que, pas forcément par conviction, mais parfois un certain nombre de nos collègues, par lâcheté, par excès de prudence ou par prudence mal placée, eh
Level
bien,
and second
renoncent à mener ces
because
combats,
we may see very
oublient d'être dans
important
l'hémicycle
point.
au moment de voter ou s'abstiennent
Demographic
prudemment,
situation of Europe.
alors que sur des
It depends
sujets
on
comme
the
celui-là, on voit que la gauche et les progressistes sont forts de nos faiblesses et ils vont toujours plus loin parce que les conservateurs et la droite, sans doute majoritaires dans l'opinion sur ces sujets-là,
The
sont souvent
politics
désunis.
are connected
Et
in the
d'où la
same
nécessité, par-delà nos
ideals.
différences, qui sont légitimes et normales entre nos nations, entre nos
So
groupes
when
politiques, eh
we
bien,
want to
de
protect the
s'unir lorsqu'il
values,
s'agit de défendre les valeurs
it's really
fondamentales
complicated.
de notre civilisation, parce que
We spend a lot of
on
time
passe beaucoup de temps à
to
parler des
speak
sujets
about economy,
économiques, des sujets sociaux, et souvent les politiques qui sont menées,
the
quand
bad
elles sont
politic
mauvaises,
economic
eh
one
bien, elles sont réversibles. Une mauvaise
in
politique
in
économique, que ce soit au niveau
few
européen
following
ou au niveau
years.
national, eh bien, en quelques années, quelques mesures qui vont dans le bon sens peuvent rétablir la situation. Alors que la disparition de notre civilisation par l'effondrement démographique ou par l'immigration de masse, eh bien,
And
ça peut
hence, the
avoir un
necessity
caractère
beyond our differences, which
irréversible,
are
un caractère
legitimate and normal
définitif.
between our
Et donc,
nations,
on ne peut
between
pas
our
mettre sur un
political
pied
groups,
d'égalité ce qui touche à
to
l'essentiel
unite
de ce que nous
when
sommes,
it comes to
non pas
defending the
simplement à ce que nous
fundamental
avons, à ce que nous
values
voulons,
of
mais
our
à ce que nous
civilization,
sommes,
because we spend a lot of time
avec
talking
simplement
about economic
des
issues,
mesures
social
qui
issues,
relèvent
and often the
de
policies that are
la
implemented.
gestion
When they are bad, well,
économique de
they
nos
are
nations, de nos
irreversible.
collectivités.
A
Elles
bad
sont
economic
certes très
policy,
importantes, elles ont
whether
certes
at
un
the
impact
European or
lourd
national
sur
level, can
la
be
vie
corrected
quotidienne de nos
in a few years.
compatriotes, et
A
c'est
few
notre
measures that
responsabilité
go
en
in
tant
the
que
right
parlementaires,
directions can
mais
restore the
ça n'est pas
situation.
sur le même plan.
Whereas the
Voilà. Et donc il faut
disappearance
responsabiliser
of our
davantage les uns et les
civilization
autres
through demographic
lorsqu'on
collapse.
a des basculements anthropologiques, le mariage pour les homosexuels, la GPA qui est une abomination, l'IVG dans la Charte des droits
Touch
fondamentaux, comme si
very essential.
c'était une valeur cardinale. On touche là à l'essentiel et ça nécessite de mettre chacun face à ses
Dernière
responsabilités.
question.
Thank you very much to the member of parliament. We have time for one more question, so this gentleman over there.
Thank you very much.
Very quick.
I'll speak in English. I'm a broad conservative, and indeed I've served both in the EPP and in the ECR for 10 years in each when I was an MEP. And it's always an uncomfortable position to be when you see ideologies moving in a way radically different on some aspects, but yet closer to you in others. And my question is really directed at Ambassador Tanjo Correa, because I noticed he made a very strong attack on the Green Initiative, and I can understand some of that. He then said we should have no wind turbines offshore, we should have no panels in our countryside. But my question to him is very simple. Is he basically saying there is no climate change? There is no global warming phenomenon. We can just ignore it. If he does believe that, then his ideology on this is correct. But if you're like me and I'm a scientist and doctor by training, I see the phenomenon of global warming. I do accept that my old party, the Conservatives, perhaps were going a bit too much in the green direction because there is an economic consequence to all these things. But at the same time, global warming is a reality. And if you are worried about mass uncontrolled migration and demographic changes, in the next 50 years, if global warming continues, we will see millions of people come from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Far East, into Europe because it will be cooler and there will be opportunities here. And we ain't seen nothing yet. So I would argue that if you are to be a conservative and you want to defend our borders, we must also combat climate change. What is the answer? Perhaps nuclear. But you're saying we don't need it at all, from what I understood.
Okay, thank you for the question. For the challenge, please respond.
Well, obviously there's a complex question, and climate change, it's necessary to know how much the human hand is responsible for climate change, because the warming is already past, is gone. Those people from the climate scientists already left that, and we saw that Antarctica this year got much more ice than the previous years. That's not the point. I don't deny that there are changes. There are always changes. The desert of Sahara was not created by the four-wheel drive of the Arabs, for sure, because there was a climate change. Now, we Europeans, we contribute with 8% of the global emissions, 8%. And we are going to make our industries, we are going to make our activity not aggressive enough in the world champ. I mean, we are going to import from China, who doesn't have anything against climate change. We import from the United States, item. We import from India, item. We import from all these countries who couldn't care less about climate change. We import from all these countries who couldn't care less about child working. We could not import from those countries who have no salary and working policies. And of course, our products will be much more expensive. That's okay. The principles are good, but let's not make ourselves more punished than we are now. Because I didn't say that we should not have solar panels. We should not have solar panels in agricultural lands where food can be produced, because the animals are going to. You can have solar panels in the roof of the house. You can have solar panels in areas, not necessarily in rural areas. You're going to cut in Portugal. The Chinese have a plan there to cut the equivalent to 100 football fields, and they're going to cut, I don't know, 1,000 trees. Is this an ecological way? Does this contribute to have footprint less negative in carbon emissions? I don't think so. I think it's exactly the opposite. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last word will go to Mrs. Lexmann. I just wanted to react that, Charles, I understand your commentary and what you wanted to say. And the whole problem with the Green Deal and the green economics, the green goals, is that we've made it into an ideology. And once you make something into an ideology, they say that revolutions kill their own children. Ideologies do too, because we, in an ideological way, are headed towards a certain goal. Or maybe I would use medical term that surgery has been successful and the patient has died. We said it wrongly in the first place. We can do green politics in a way that it reaches its goals and at the same time doesn't liquidate its your own country's industry. So let us thank our panelists.